morning, everybody. It's Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, and this is your Monday morning market breakdown. Hope everybody had a great weekend, and I know some of you are off today for the holiday. Man, September is at the end. I mean, we are here. We crank into October tomorrow. This is it. I mean, September has absolutely flown by. I know at least out here the leaves are dropping already, or starting to. I know people are getting some cooler temperatures. It was unbelievable. It was 60 degrees when I woke up the other day. I went outside. I was like, oh my God, it's 61. I love this. So definitely enjoying the fall weather and everything. With the fall weather, obviously, you have fall allergies and fall colds, and you have little kids, and you know how those are. They're like little petri dishes. So I do apologize. My voice is a little congested today. So if I do sound weird, it is still me. Obviously, if I clear my throat, I would do my best to try to not cough into the microphone. But I'm glad everybody came out today. This week is absolutely just packed full of news. It's going to be an absolutely amazing week for trading. I cannot wait. Very, very excited about it. So we'll talk about some, cool potential areas that we need to look at. Also, other times this week where we need to make sure that we are not only paying attention, but paying attention to the charts as well as the positions that we have on. Okay. So for those of you that don't know me, if you're brand new, welcome out. I'm happy to have you. I have a little bit of a different trading style than a lot of the kind of traditional methods out there. So you can get a better understanding of why I set my positions. Easiest way is to kind of understand my background. So I've been trading since about 2000. Right during the tech bubble is when I really started to kind of focus and get into the markets, and came from a stocks options, and then I found currencies background, and just recently found Nadex a few years ago, and created a number of different courses for it. I have a 30-minute trader program and a 5-minute binary courses that I've created for specific Nadex strategies. And you see right here, it's for people with full-time jobs. So I'm not a believer in sitting in front of a computer for 16 hours a day. I don't think it's healthy. Actually, there are other people that agree with me. I believe it's not the FDA because they do drugs, but NIH or something like that. They basically said that working in front of a computer and sitting is going to be the new cigarette, is what they said. I guess, obviously sitting for long periods of time is bad. So my belief is you don't need to do that. You can use technology, come back and know when it's time to trade, and the rest of the time go out and do something else. So that is really kind of my strategy. I'm a big if this, then that type person. All right. I have worked in one of the big three banks advisory divisions. It gave me kind of a different understanding, knowing what it's like on the inside versus being on the outside. After that, I left and came back out, and for about 6 years, I spent around traveling the U.S. and Canada. And that's not only where I met my wife, but I got a different kind of view on, international markets, which I think definitely helped in kind of my looking at things and understanding news releases with foreign countries, and kind of took my forex trading to another level. Besides being a trader too, I am a family man. I'm very proud of that fact. I take care of the two boys in this picture are twins. They are 9. They keep me busy with lacrosse. We were actually out there at a lacrosse team spaghetti dinner last night, and then the baby is her hair is actually longer than that now. She's not much taller, but she's got longer hair, and she's going to be 16 months in 2 days, and she is not talking, but everything is called Gog Gog, which is her word for dog, and she's into everything. So she already loves the charts. She loves to sit on my lap and look at them. I don't know if it's the moving of everything around or the commentary, but she will sit here and watch me do webinars for you guys, and wants to start trading already. She's not even 2. That's pretty fun. So with that being said, before I jump into charts, let me cover a quick Nadex risk disclaimer. So trading on Nadex involves financial risk, and it may not be appropriate for all investors. The information presented here is for information and education purposes only, and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Nadex contracts are based on underlying asset classes, including forex, stock index futures, and commodity futures. Now, trading can be volatile, and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. However, the design of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC. Now, one thing I want to point out on the slide, just so everybody understands kind of my passion with Nadex, is I'm told that I am the news trader a lot. And the reason why is I get very excited and I love news trading, because that's typically around that time is when we have the largest movements. News acts as a catalyst. One of the things I love about Nadex the most is the fact that the way that, again, this last little paragraph here, that however, the design of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Because of the way that they are formed, they match up perfectly with news trading. And again, that's why I spend a lot of time. I was asked last week, you spend a lot of time on news more than more than most people do. Why? This is why, because one of my big strategies is news trading, and I use Nadex for that in particular. All right, so that's why I cover it. So with that being said, let me go through my top 3 of the week. Now, for every week, what I do is I look at the top 3 major news releases that I feel have the biggest potential, and I say potential, they have the biggest potential for a large bang, right? The ability to kind of send price in one direction or another. Okay, so there's a number of them up here. These are not the only ones. I'm actually going to go through the weekly list so we can set you up for the week. These are the top 3. Number one, obviously non-farm payroll. Okay, non-farm payroll can typically be a boom or a bust, and when it's a boom, it's a big boom. I mean, you'll have some, you have the larger, more volatile pairs move 250 pips, or have that potential. With everything that's going on with the economy right now, and the way that it was very jumpy last week with a tweet here and a tweet there and a tweet there, I think this number, and again, as we get closer and closer to elections, is going to start getting more and more important. Okay, it's going to be used by both political parties, and it's not just one side. Both political parties are going to be using kind of the economy as kind of a talking point, and non-farm payroll change, non-farm employment change is going to be the big one. Particularly things like the unemployment rate. Okay, that's always associated with it as well. So we're going to see that. It's not expected to be any different. Last time I mentioned that I expected it to go up, and it did. The August number went up from 3.6 to 3.7. September held. It's not expected to change, but if it does, there's going to be some talking points on that one from both political parties. If it goes down, one party's going to talk about it. If it goes up, the other political party's going to talk about it. So that's why I believe that's going to be an important one and definitely a potential market mover. This next one is not at 4:30 in the morning. That was from actually, you know what? That one is 10. Let me go 10 a.m. All right, and that is ISM non-manufacturing PMI. Okay, anytime you see those I's in there, inflation is a very important piece. Anytime, and especially the non-manufacturing side of it. This is what interest rate changes are based off of. Okay, there's a lot of talk, and interest rate is the number one market mover. When we change interest rates, the entire world has to kind of adjust for it. And again, something like ISM non-manufacturing, this is a big one. Okay, and this will be Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Again, I've mentioned this before. Just be cautious. Remember, at 10 and 10:30 a.m. are the 2 most common times for reversals in the stock market. Okay, a lot of your indices, you'll see ES and the US 500, those kind of things. They typically will reverse at 10 or 10:30 in the morning. So again, just happens to be right around the same time that news is coming out, so that could actually be the catalyst for it to kind of flip. So just be cautious in your positions. Now, and that's on Thursday morning. Number 3, this is going to be Tuesday night. I try to mix it up and not just do all one news release or one country. But as I mentioned before, Australia, when their news releases come out, are typically very late at night. Again, this is 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. They're having a rate change this week. That's what the forecast is. The market is adjusted for it. And even though everybody knows it's coming, again, there's a rate statement with it as well. They could talk about further rate decreases. And again, these things can offer some fireworks. It's supposed to go from 1 to 0.75. If it doesn't change, market will go crazy. If it goes down to 0.5, if it's a double rate drop, again, large move. Even the 0.75 will probably send waves through the Aussie dollar and make it volatile back and forth around 9:30 at night. Because again, there are no U.S. traders or anybody going against that pair, the Aussie dollar. So it'll just be Australian traders. And again, you can also trade it with the Australian yen on Nadex. Again, giving us a very good potential trade setup. All right, so keep an eye on that one. So with that being said, those are my top 3. If you can only make 3, I would check those out. Let me bring this in real quick. Okay. So this is Forex Factory, and I like it because I can actually see a little bit more. Obviously, there's multiple websites I used. I was using another one for a while in here. Make this big so everybody can see it. All right. So as you guys can see, this is it's filtered right now for high and medium news releases. Depending on what the year has been, it may be considered a high or a low. But obviously today we had obviously the GDP numbers early this morning. Great Britain pound current account. Again, it's not one of the biggest one. And final GDP number is typically not a huge mover just because we already know what it is, and that's just a kind of final stamp, final confirmation on it. So not as much of a mover. And you can see, the pound dollar is up 24. Pound yen is up 91. So, obviously offering a bit of movement. All right. This morning, really nothing. You have Chicago PMI. Tonight, we start running into some New Zealand data, and then tonight we have building approvals at 9:30 p.m. Building approvals is not really the largest kind of Aussie dollar mover. It's considered high impact because, again, it is one of the larger Australian ones, but it tends to not move it for our purposes, not a ton. Okay. But again, tonight is also going to be that cash rate. So I feel a lot of people are not going to react to building approvals. They're going to be reacting to this cash rate and cash rate settlement. You guys can see right here, it is picked to be down 0.25, right? Going a bit lower into Tuesday, again, you'll see early morning things. Low is, again, he's speaking at 5:20 in the morning. Again, that's at the end of their day over there. Super early for here. Again, if you're anywhere but the East Coast, this one's going to be a little bit harder to be involved with, okay? Starting 8:30 a.m., CAD GDP number. Now, this is going to be important when they're showing the economy is slowing in Canada. This will be a market mover, okay? Again, you play this with the dollar CAD, the binary, or you can play it with a spread. For those of you that trade forex outside of Nadex as well, again, you better play this one with the CAD yen. That's another alternative. Now, that's going to be at 8:30, all right? And again, we'll see markets react. Then what's going to happen is you have a couple different people speaking, and then bam, you have this ISM number right here. Okay, now again, ISM is, this time it's predicted to be back over 50. 50 is kind of a big number, and last time it was at 49.1. That was a big deal. This was a huge market mover last time. Okay, being over 50 would be definitely very, very positive. If this one fails and the forecast is off, okay, and you can see that the forecast is quite frequently off, this will be another mover. Again, the market is priced in it being above 50. If it is below 50, it's going to be a nice new setup. Okay, so again, keep that one on your radar. I think that one's going to be, there's definitely potential for a bang on that one. Now, going into Wednesday, this is where we have our ADP non-employment change. Okay, this is about the number of jobs that we've added or subtracted. Again, it's supposed to be positive, but again, that can obviously be a nice market mover if this number is a miss. Okay, this one is also quite frequently a miss. And if we have something like this where it's expected to be 140, like if we have something here where it's supposed to be 185 and it was 27, again, big mover. You can play that in multiple pairs. You can also play that in the indices. Yes, I spend a lot of time on currencies because I'm predominantly a currency trader. But again, when we talk about, employment movement, right, that's going to go into not only the, basically all your U.S. indices trades, the NASDAQ, they're all going to move. The Dow, Russell, they're all going to be moving in reaction to that because, again, we're just not hiring people. That means recession. That means layoffs. Again, Russell probably have the biggest bit of movement of that one, okay? And then crude oil, right? Crude oil right here. Look at this. Even though those oil refineries allegedly got, blown up, what's happening? Our supply is building, right? We're getting more and more and more supply. So we'll see what happens this week. And again, oil, if you guys have heard me talk about oil, you guys can see that, the guys over at oil, whoever does the predictions is worse than the weatherman, right? I mean, they are typically off, right? Which gives us the ability to have some movement. Actually, hold on, that's non-farm. Where is it? Oil is right here. There we go. You guys can see, again, they are quite frequently off. I mean, over here, we're supposed to be -2, we're at -10. -4, -10. -3, 4. -2, we're +1. Okay, so you guys can see that they are quite frequently off. And again, we are in September. We are out of summer gas. We're starting to talk about, and again, we haven't really seen too much. I mean, we just went through hurricane season with really kind of unscathed. I mean, I don't think we shut down any refineries or rigs or anything this year. Be interesting to see what this number kind of comes in today. So if you're new to commodities trading, again, make sure you go over to demo and check those out. Going into Thursday, okay, Thursday is that ISM manufacturing right here. Okay, again, big piece here. So again, right around reversal time, I think that'll be important. That'll start us off in the morning, and then again, right here, this is a big one as well. This almost made the top 3. Retail sales in Australia. One of the things, again, I've mentioned this before. One of the biggest things, even if you are not a currency trader, you don't specialize in forex, and that's just not your thing, try some of these at night, okay? Because there's only the Australian market really kind of, battling this news release. Your same setups, if they work, should work at this time at night as well. So if you have a news breakout strategy or a retracement, like a parabolic retracement strategy, the webinar I did a few weeks ago, this is absolutely perfect to do it with. Okay, you can do it at 9:30 p.m. at night. Do it before bed. If you're on the the West Coast, hey, do it after dinner time. It's 6:30 your time. Do it after dinner. You can get in there, do some trading. And again, that's how you guys are able to use technology. You'll know when these things are coming up. Come back, trade it, and then go about the rest of your day. Just don't, if you're West Coast, or just don't get on at 6:30 and then try to trade till midnight. That's not what I'm advocating. Going into Friday morning, a lot of stuff going on. Trade balance with CAD would be very important. And again, if you're a currency trader, you could trade that with CAD yen, but stay away from the CAD dollar on that morning. Why? Because the trade balance number won't matter. All eyes are going to be on non-farm employment change, the non-farm payroll number, and this unemployment rate. Like I said, the unemployment rate is going to start to become a talking point. The employment change, goes back and forth, but this is going to be the biggie, right? This is where you're going to see all eyes are going to be on this. This is going to be a huge talking point. All right. And then again, 2 p.m. Be cautious. Again, I typically don't advocate trading into Friday afternoon, but again, if you do have positions on, I have one of my students that always trades an afternoon butterfly trade, one of the 30-minute trader strategies. Things like this will make him kind of make sure his positions are off because, if Powell speaks, Powell has the ability to move the market quite a lot, right? If he mentions rate cuts or, any type of recession or the economy strengthening, a lot of people are, and again, I think that after the last rate cut, I think there was an 83% chance, I think it was Goldman Sachs said there was an 83% chance of another rate cut this year, and there was a 65% or a 55% chance of having a cut for the next two meetings, having two cuts in the remainder of this year. So if he gives us any insight into that, again, that will be something that the markets react to. Make sure your positions are protected at that time before you get going too crazy with it. All right. So with that said, let me drag this back out and put it over here. Let's drop this down and let's go into some charts. Let me bring it back to the first one. So what I'll do is I'm going to run through kind of the different pairs, things that we should look out for. Areas of the larger time frame is really what I'm going to kind of focus on. I'm not going to focus on necessarily the bottom two. The bottom left is just so you guys know, I use multiple time frame analysis. It's something that a lot of traders use. It's a way that I can get a big picture of trend and also look at where it is in relation to other time frames. All right. The upper left is my daily. The bottom left is 4 hour. On the right hand side is my 30-minute. As you can see, last week, really not much movement, right? We kind of hit this selling area, this red line, and price dropped back down again, right? Since that time, it kind of, last week it gapped, came down. We had a little bit of gap again, but it really hasn't moved. It's very, very sideways, in movement. Bodies are very, very small, a lot of wick. So it hasn't really been the best kind of trading asset in the last week. Now, with some of the news this week, obviously the rate change is a big one with retail sales in this one. We will see movement in this pair. Last week, it really didn't have a lot of news releases, and it shows in the markets, okay? As I mentioned before, let me get those real quick. Let me shrink this. Let me see. Let me pull this down. All right. Starting tonight at 9:30, building approvals won't move it, but at 12:30, again, cash rate will move this one. Then looking Thursday at 9:30 p.m. will be the next one for retail sales. So we'll have two biggies on this for the remainder of the week, and that'll be what we're looking for. But yeah, for me, really right now, two areas, and we're kind of sandwiched right now. What I am looking for is, oops, I don't know if I got the right rectangle. Okay, so I'm basically looking for price to kind of come back down here, or I'm looking for price to come basically back up top. All right, back into kind of this area. Okay, so for me, this is kind of my sell zone up top, and this would be my buying area down below. Obviously, the start of the last move, and obviously the last kind of selling area up top. Right now, we're kind of smack dead in the middle of it. Sideways, there's really no trend whatsoever. So for me, it's not a chart that I'm going to focus on or pay too much attention to. Okay, until we hit one of those two areas. But again, I will look at it news-wise. A spike up or a spike down because of rate changes or news, then I'm interested in stepping into those positions. Okay, going down to Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar has a similar picture in that it came up to our sell zone. It hit, it's just rallied all the way back down. So this one is in a little bit different of a situation. It's been a little bit choppier, right? Again, you guys can see since the gap, it kind of, hasn't done much, but again, it is Monday. Again, it's preparing for the rate change as well, but we do have this kind of area here where I'd be looking for any type of buying opportunity or what we would call momentum breakout of this zone. So we're pretty close to it, right above. Price is at what, 67.50 right now. This zone starts at 67.24, so it only needs to move about 25 pips lower. Obviously, looking at the lower time frames, no trend. I mean, again, the U.S. traders have not gotten involved yet on this one. Your gold markets have not gotten involved. But for me, again, I can read you the numbers, but everybody's platform will be slightly different because of its currencies. But again, you guys will be able to have the same picture for the most part. But 67.24 down to 67 or 66.80-ish area. I mean, again, it's on the daily, so it's a large area, but I will refine that on the 4 hour. Any type of hit in this area, I'll be looking for a confirmation trade back out the top, or I'm ultimately, I'd like to see a break below. I think dollar strength in this one is really the key. They are weakening. They are lowering their interest rates. They are preparing for somewhat of a recession. And again, we are a little bit more. The United States can tolerate a little bit more recession, and when everybody's bad, that tends to be when we are the strongest, because obviously the dollar being the world currency. So my opinion is I'm actually looking at break of this zone, and again, I'm going to use a momentum breakout strategy to the downside. All right. Going down, let's look at euro pound. All right, so for me, okay, euro pound has been interesting. I'm waiting for kind of some big movement in this one. And again, last night obviously we had quite a large drop, right? Um, for me, again, this pair, I think, as we get closer and closer and closer to that Brexit kind of failsafe, or that kind of the Brexit leave date, this pair is going to be getting more volatile. Okay, as you can see over here on the 4 hour, the 4 hour looks kind of busy. I got a lot of lines and things. And this is a zone that I've been kind of following back and forth, and price really hasn't left it with much conviction. It's been popping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You guys can see we had this kind of sell zone we were waiting for. I'll extend a line so you don't think I'm just drawing things here. Put a horizontal line right there. You guys see if we box that zone off all the way across. Okay, this is a zone we've talked about for a while. It's a 4 hour zone. This kind of retrace here showed that it was real. It came up and then kind of tanked based off the 4 hour. So perfect setup on a Sunday night. It's pulling back down, and again, the profit target's going to most likely be back down here, although it looks like it's running into, it just looks like it ran into a profit target right there. I'm using this as a proxy to determine whether I should be trading euro dollar or pound dollar. Right now, looking at the 4 hour, again, it did bounce just off the zone that we were looking for. If you want to mark off other areas, I've marked off that one. You guys should be able to see it. It's after this big drop this way so you guys can see it just a bit better. Okay. You guys can see there's that little red candle in there. It's a level of fast drop, a level of basing, and then kind of price popped out again. And you'll see that it came up and retested it once and then missed it a second time. So the numbers on mine are 88.98 to 88.18. Okay, about a 20 pip zone there. Other areas you should be watching out for, again, this top section here, this is a nice little drop here, and this occurs at 88.62 up to 88.74. Okay, that's kind of a secondary kind of drop if it does kind of push back through again. As far as downside goes, downside's a little bit different. Okay, you can see where price came down here and you look left, it's kind of in this long extended kind of grind period straight up in the air. Okay, there's a few pullbacks in there, a lot of small bodies, but it's in a long extended period. So without the real pullbacks, it's really just a game of finding the wicks, and we're pretty much clear down to 87.20. So it's got about 140 pips to the downside with really not too much in the way. It's going to be grindy. It will have it will have kind of pullbacks to find more orders to go down, but nothing that I'm going to say, hey, set an alert here, and if it hits, let's do it. It's not really set up for one of those positions right now. Looking on the daily, you can see that there is a bit of a pullback right above, but again, that's at 89.37. It's kind of back up over in here. As far as this is what you're seeing right here, okay, which is an area that I absolutely love. You guys will notice I don't have any other indicators on here. I'm literally looking at price action only. And again, that's why I'm an if this then that trader. I'm using the sales and things of big moves and big money to follow it. Okay, that's all I'm following. So as far as setups on this one, we literally just came off of one right now and it's dropping. This was quite an easy setup. And again, this is a setup we've had for a while. If you know how to set alerts, this is exactly when you want them. You guys can see it triggered last night in this alert, and quite a bit of movement, right? We're talking about 50 pips from last night to this morning. Okay, looking over at euro yen. Okay, euro yen had a similar kind of pullback. Wasn't as clean of an entry, right? Got to fuel myself with a little more coffee. Now this one, again, this is the equivalent, that upper zone. This is also another one. I thought I marked it off last week, but I forgot that we did have that crash last week, so it wouldn't have saved. That we had this as another valid zone, and again, we hit the same thing. Kind of hit and drop back down again. Where we are now, so this one it's kind of wedged, right? We have a selling area up top here around 119.66, and then this bottom side, again, we had a pullback, we had a wick kind of pull in at 117.56. So we are kind of wedged between two areas. We are in the lower section. I am looking for this one to go lower. I'm looking for it kind of a target this week of coming back down to this really kind of 116.50. I'd like it to hit 116, but I think at 116.50 it's going to have some issues right down here. That's going to be a potential target. I'm looking for a bit of a confirmation. If if you weren't short already, We do have a confirmation to the downside, but it really needs to clear the bottom of this. Again, we know that last time price was down here, it was like a rocket ship being sent off. I needed to break below this level. Okay, in the short, your target would have been probably slightly lower if you. No, you probably would have had it. It probably would have just tagged it there about 30 minutes ago at 117.71. Okay, had you taken it from this zone. But eventually, I'm looking for this zone again. This is very choppy. Nice push out of it. When this zone gets broken, I'm looking for, as I said before, I'm looking to target this kind of. I'll draw it over here, you guys. See it just a little bit. I'm looking for a target of this again, 116.50. I'd like it to come through and break, but I think it's gonna hit this area first and maybe kind of whether bounce a bit, look for more orders, or potentially again go lower. You guys can see long term hasn't been here for a very long time. This is on November 2018 back here, so in over a year, I mean this is just coming straight down. So I'm looking for this to hit some new lows. All right. With that being said, let's switch across and go to pound yen. Now pound yen is, let's see. Pound yen right now in the last 24 hours is up 86. Okay, so you guys can see, overall it came off of an area. We had this blue line is what our target was that I'd covered before last week. It hit that line and it's kind of been more or less going sideways, right? Since we hit it. Down here we had another area that we said if it got any lower, we're looking because again price had already retraced it. It hit it once again. This little basing level here, it tested once, tested another time, and then was unable to come back down again. Obviously, the profit target from the entry on the daily ended up hitting our zone here and went sideways. Now, since that time, hasn't done much. I mean, when I say hasn't done much, again, just this pop since last night, right? This is up 86. So again, it's more kind of set this way. Now, what I'm looking for now, and again, this is one thing that immediately pops out. You can see not a lot of movement on the daily, right? I mean, again, last week it did grind down from that sell zone that we talked about. Since that time, it's really just kind of been stuck in a channel. Now, very interesting channel. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit so you guys can get a better kind of view of this one. This channel is, I'm going to do it to make it easy here. Okay, so there's your kind of top side of the channel. And, oops, I got to click the button again. Okay, there's top side. And here, again, because of the setting wicks, is kind of the bottom side. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, it doesn't transfer down. But what we're seeing here, we're seeing a nice base here, right? Price popped up, it based very fast, and boom, exploded. Went all the way down, touched, and ran into buyers, came all the way back up, went right back into this zone. Again, that zone, it's extending, but the zone is formed off of this piece right here. Okay, came up and hit, went back down, went slightly lower again. Hit that area of buyers, boom, popped right back up again into the same zone. Hit, came all the way back down again, didn't quite make it as far, and then again over, and it's coming back up again. So for me, this is basically a 100 pip channel from 133.20 down to 132.40, okay? Because it's 80 pips, but either way, it's really basing back and forth between the two. Without any other level of catalyst, this is kind of a channel that I see kind of repeating again and again. So again, be cautious of those two areas. If you can get into some type of a spread position in these are not bad spread trades, taking these back and forth. As you can see, this one candle, okay, actually this two candle, this is 4 hours, 8 hours. Okay, so again, large move in one day, you're talking about moving 80 pips. That's not a bad little, that's not a bad little spread trade. Obviously, you can take it in binaries as well, but again, any type of channeling like this is always, at our advantage. Now, ideally, okay, and I say ideally here, ideally, if we can be in one of these two zones this week for any of the pound news, that's best case scenario. Okay, that's where we can start taking some of these news trades. So again, that's why I'm marking those off, and that's why I'm keeping focused on those two things. So again, match those two zones up with the the channeling type news with the right binary strike. That's where I'm going to be looking for kind of news moves out of those things. Look at pound dollar as it loads. All right, so pound dollar had the same kind of fall last week. Again, we had from a sell zone. Here's a pullback on the 4 hour. This one now is sitting inside of a daily zone. Okay, and when I say zone, we're sitting inside of a demand zone, right? We see these ascending wicks. This wick is lower than this one, shows me that there are buyers sitting down in this area. Okay, so I did like the short. It has hit our profit targets. We're now sitting in a demand or a buying zone. Now I got to figure out what it wants to do. And you can see it's come down and really kind of just based, right? I mean, again, we had September 30th right here. This is kind of the, you kind of see the weekend section here. Hasn't done much since that time, right? Looking over here, you guys can see we had this very, very large drop. And again, marking off the very large drop, I'm going to move this down. Okay. There's where our basing level was. There's the explosion. You can see that explosion is what has given us now 2 entries. Now, this is price action 101. If you guys are kind of confused, why did you move it there? Well, a lot of price action is determining where there's long extended range candles and bodies, and this is where we had one, right? If you look across, we had basing, kind of popped up. And again, I could shrink this super small if I really wanted to, but did price really take off out of that zone? I mean, the result's the same. It still came back up and tagged it, but I probably would have gone through to about there just because, again, that's where this really, really large candle kind of exploded out of there. And you can see that gave us here. Here's our parabolic retracement all the way back up again, which gave us an entry to go short and run it right back down again. Okay, so again, this is kind of kind of textbook my trading style, right? Retrace it back up, 50 pips. Okay, take it again. And there's from your entry, and you run it back down to this level right here, right, kind of where we ran into. There's another 40, 96 pips, okay, in short order. Now, again, this is pips. Again, there's a lot of pip movement there. Again, this is almost 3 strike prices up. This is over 2 strike prices down. When I say strike prices, I mean the on a daily position for this one. A lot of movement in this one comes off Sunday nights. And again, this is why price action is important to grab, okay, with no indicators. Where we are right now, again, it's hit 2 different times. If we can get back up here again, there is a potential short in there again, but be very cautious with it. We got to see if there's any type of basing before we hit that zone, just because, again, it's already hit 2 times. As we get into 3 and 4, it's most likely going to break and price will move higher. So again, it's not a zone that will last forever. Number 1 and number 2, you're typically golden on. Number 3 and number 4 is where it gets, number 3 gets risky. Number 4 gets even riskier, and it's very rare that a zone is ever hit 4 times. At this point, I'd be looking for really kind of, we'll see what type of retracement happens at the top side. I'm not as worried because, again, you guys look back. What do you see right here? Large pop, a bit of a retracement, and there's a single wick against a wall. So it's showing me that there are actually buyers above where we are in price at 123.45, which is really right up in this area right here. Okay, so if it is able to break, it may get kind of shunned and pushed back down again. And typically that's very defeating for the bulls when finally they break a level and then run into another group of sellers, and that's where we could be looking for breaks below 122.76. Let's see, go over to dollar CAD. Now, Canada does have some news releases this week. The only kind of standalone solo news is GDP on Tuesday morning, tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. We will mention this one tomorrow before news. Right now, it's a bit kind of all over the place. We had this zone up here. This was actually a channel. You guys can see on the daily, this is doing what I would call, at this point, I've named it like the umbrella formation. You have this, I mean, it's just all wicks, bodies back and forth, no really, clear determination of trend. You can see that we've been really kind of bouncing off of this kind of lower zone here, and we've gotten, this was the gap from last week. Down, hit it again, down, hit it again, and again, it's just kind of bouncing along. So really, it's sideways. I would like to get a better read tomorrow morning before I kind of give you analysis on this. Because we have Canadian news tomorrow, this will definitely be something we want to look at. Okay, we're going to see, are we sitting in this zone? Have we rallied back up again? On the 4-hour, where are we? That's how you're going to be able to take news releases. That news release trades to determine where we are. As far as trend goes, yeah, we are in a downtrend setup. It is pulling back on the daily. It's looking for sellers. But it's looking for sellers into an area where we've seen previous buyers. So not necessarily the best kind of place to say, hey, I'm going to get short right here, even though I know there are buyers sitting there. So again, this is going to be a tomorrow morning news, release. Looking at the dollar Swiss, okay, dollar Swiss really got, became like a pretty nice pair last week. You can see overnight, this one is really, really, really pushed up. And again, when I say really, really, we're talking about 40 pips. That's a lot for this pair. This pair has an ATR of only it's actually up to 60 again a day, which has actually been nice. This one has been kind of moving around. Now this one had a zone that got breached here. Let's move this forward. This is actually from last week. It's funny. This is kind of still pushing. There's our gap that we need to mark off. Kind of good there. And that was our equilibrium. Remove that. All right. So now this is that geopolitical pair. This is any mention of North Korea, invading Iran, China going into Hong Kong, anything like that. That's what's going to move this pair around. They don't really necessarily have their own news. Their news is typically in response to geopolitical issues. We are getting some nice movement. We do have kind of a nice little healthy pullback right now. It is pushing higher. We are getting back up to kind of almost the parity level, right? parity is at 1, right? We are sitting, what, 50 pips from parity right now? And again, it's making a concerted effort. This last zone was actually pushed into very deeply. Right above that, again, that goes up to 99.80. We're getting right up to parity. Parity is a huge psychological level. It's 3 zeros across inside of pips, not talking about fractionals, then it would be 4. Big bit. And again, it typically is a sell zone, right? It's kind of like oil. That first time when oil came up to 100, it got sucked up, hit sideways, and then boom, came dropping back down again. So we'll see what it's going to do right now. If it does give us somewhat of a green pullback here on the 30-minute and then starts to go red, I'm going to be potentially looking for a short. Again, this is very, very fast movement up in a very short period of time for the dollar Swiss. Typically, when you have a reaction this great, you tend to get somewhat of a retracement back to the downside. All right, so probably a little bit more bearish on this one. I'm going to see what happens when it comes back up and hits this 99.63 area. All right. Going down, last but not least, let's talk about dollar yen. Went a little bit late this morning. Again, nice little pullback last week. We are at a level of basing. It did push higher and then kind of came back down again. So it went slightly higher than what our kind of an original kind of, if we got to here, we're going to sell. And again, this was over the weekend, so I'm not necessarily concerned about it. Or this was late Friday. Again, I was done trading at this point, but we've pushed up. Again, finally hit it. Right now, looking at this chart, looking at this kind of failure to go higher, at least on the 4-hour, if we start painting a red candle over here in the daily, I'm going to start getting pretty bearish in this pair just because, again, we made a valid push up and then got slammed down, and then it's retracement. It only went back up to 108.02. Okay, we are pushing above that right now, but the U.S. markets have not opened. There's been no reactions to anything yet. Hey, we got some news this week that's pretty important. Again, this has a lot of room to run back to the downside, and we're talking about 100 pips just back down to the low of last week, which, again, excellent buying area. Put this over here so you guys can see it. That is an excellent, awesome buying area right there. I love the way that formed. If price comes back down, make sure you guys have that marked off at 106.90. But again, it's about 100 pips lower. What's going to stop us really on the downside? I mean, very, very wicky. Some bad news. This thing can absolutely drop. It has an ATR of 75, so it can cover 75 with no problems. Today, obviously, there's no big news releases for the United States. But tomorrow, going to ISM manufacturing, hey, we may have some, if we don't really get some nice movement until that time, this market could really be prepped for being bearish. I mean, we'll see what the news, with the non-economic factor news releases today, see what type of, tweets are made, what type of promises, and he said, she said happens today. But that can move this pair around. And again, tomorrow morning, I think we can get a good read because tomorrow morning, again, like I said, we have ISM manufacturing PMI at 10 a.m. Today will be a true teller to see what type of levels we can put either up top or on bottom and see if we've already flipped and is the market adjusting to get bearish. All right. So with that being said, that is the final bit of looking at the charts. If you guys have any questions for anything that we do, again, like I said, my strategy is slightly different. I am not looking at indicators. I'm not looking at numbers. I'm not looking at arrows or red light, green light. I am purely looking at price action and how candles are formed. If you have questions about it, you're more than welcome to visit the website, keeptradingsimple.com. If you know what Discord is, it's a free chat room. You're more than welcome to go in there and talk to my other traders. I have some excellent guys in there that will help you guys if I'm not around. At night, we are on Twitch as well. We do presentations at night, typically every night not every night, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. We do live analysis at night for overnight trades. Or if you guys have a question about something I said today, you're more than welcome to email me at support@keeptradingsimple.com. Thank you so much, guys. I will catch you same time tomorrow morning for Tuesday morning trade talk. And we'll set up that CAD trade and look at the dollar yen trade. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good day trading.